Sucwentwecw Jasmine Pigeon and Rinsquoust. Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Pigeon. Welcome to my presentation for the Day of Sucwentwecw. This is my social justice initiative for Social Studies 3200. And before we get started, I just wanted to do my Sucwetwecw land acknowledgement. So I would like to acknowledge that I am researching, writing, presenting, and teaching to you from the unceded, occupied traditional territory of Sucwentwecw, the land of the Sucwetwecw peoples. I would like to give thanks to the Sucwetwecw for allowing me to learn and live on their lands, and hope to show my respect and honor to all my relations with this presentation and initiative. Kukstetchalp. So my idea for my social justice initiative was the Day of Sucwentwecw, and I chose to focus on a few key topics: land acknowledgement, oral storytelling, traditional protocols, traditional foods, and sharing circles and gatherings. So it is an annual event hosted by School District 73 to recognize and celebrate Sucwetwecw peoples, Sucwetwecw, and other Indigenous peoples who reside within the territory. It is an annual event that is held on April 7th of every year. And the meaning of Sucwentwecw is acknowledging one another. So this year, SD73 will be hosting a plethora of virtual gatherings. So I did my best to put together an initiative that I thought I would like to run in my classroom. And I would be presenting this to my principal and my Aboriginal education staff to get support and get some resources. I'm also hoping to include some traditional food, so I would need help gathering that. So here are the posters for this year's Day of Sucwentwecw and last year's. So because I was unable to access everything from this year, I'm pulling from both years. So I just wanted to showcase that their themes were learning together in memory, history, and story using Aboriginal perspectives, and walking together, relationships and worldviews. So for my literature review, I wanted to answer what challenge or opportunity this would give me and my class. So it is my hope with this initiative to either introduce students to or further the learning of students about the Sucwetwecw peoples and their unique ways of knowing. The purpose of this initiative is to acknowledge the Sucwetwecw peoples and celebrate their culture and land, as well as any other Indigenous peoples who reside within Sucwentwecw. And I will be talking later about the resources that I used to compose this presentation, as well as anything that I was going to be doing during the day and throughout the initiative. So now I will address why this initiative is important to me. So I feel like it's important for many reasons. It upholds the BC curriculum, it utilizes First Peoples principles of learning, it meets the demands of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action for education, it honors principles of Indigenous pedagogy as stated in UNDRIP, and most importantly to me, it acknowledges the Sucwetwecw peoples and lands in authentic, respectful, and appropriate ways. I also think that this is an important initiative for me to showcase something that's a deep passion of mine. So I thought that this was the perfect opportunity for me to participate in the classroom as well. So my plan for our Day of Sucwentwecw. The purpose of this initiative, the Day of Sucwentwecw, is to acknowledge and honor Sucwetwecw and the Sucwetwecw peoples. It is intended to accomplish this by using Indigenous pedagogy, authentic resources, community-based processes, and traditional knowledge. Teaching methods of universal design for learning, differentiated instruction, and collaboration will also be utilized as ways of honoring all students within the classroom. So now I just want to outline a little bit more how I would conduct my day and my initiative as the first of my annual practice. So I just wanted to give a bit more information on how I envision the day and what the agenda would be like if I conducted this as a full day in my full-time classroom. So first I would have the students gather to open the day. I would have them in a circle on the carpet. We would talk about the meaning of the celebration, what we were going to do for the day, the expectations of the day, and then we would have some reflection time on what our thoughts would be about how the day would go. Then I would move the students into a land acknowledgement. So the activities would begin with a land acknowledgement. Students will discuss land acknowledgements. They will explore Sucwetwecw connections to land. So I would have them thinking about what a land acknowledgement means, what things should be in a land acknowledgement, and then I would have them pair up with a partner and think about what their own land acknowledgements would include. So after the land acknowledgement, it was my hope to reach out to have somebody provide a traditional snack for the students to try as a way to connect to the land. We would then move on to oral storytelling. So students will participate in an oral storytelling session using the storybook Coming to Our Senses. So I would share this story from Kenthan Thomas. He put out a video. I would also give students the accompanying storybook for them to follow along with and to complete some activities for me throughout the day. So after our work on our oral storytelling, I would have students again connect back to the land by hopefully having another traditional snack. So I was hoping for the first traditional snack to be some sort of Husham ice cream or Husham juice. I was also hoping that our second snack could be something tasty like bannock, and this is where I was hoping to be able to reach out to community and to reach out for funding from the school or from the Aboriginal Education Department to help me throughout this initiative. So after all of this, I would envision the students breaking out to complete a creative reflection activity. So reflecting. Students will participate in reflection by completing the app map activity that I have created, as well as collaborating with peers and their classroom teacher. So students will complete a creative reflection activity, the app map. In partners, the students will also create their very own land acknowledgement. And then to close the day, I would hope that students would be able to gather again in a closing circle. We would discuss our activities, we would reflect on them, and then we would do a gallery walk where we would be able to reflect on the work of our classmates. Finally, we would meet back in a circle again to reflect on the entire day and the teachings that it provided us, and as a way to say thank you for all of the teachings. So I wanted to explain a bit more about my map app example. So I had discovered or created this activity last semester in one of my classes. So I wanted to provide it as an example for something that I would envision the students doing. Of course, I wouldn't expect them to do it to this level. I would ideally have them choose 4 of the app topics that I would provide to include in their app map. And I would also provide a template upon which the students would be able to complete this, because I am gearing it for a grade 3. I want them to focus on the learning and the teachings of the culture and not have to worry so much about, is this spelt right? Is it perfect deliverable? That's not the focus of it. So I would have the students choose 4 apps out of these categories: connection to land, Sucwentwecw animals and traits, Sucwentwecw traditions or knowledge, Sucwentwecw cheen, traditional foods or plants, pictographs, solving mathematics from the storybook, or Sucwentwecw relationships and family connections. So student involvement. I would hope that the students would implement this initiative by participating in the teachings on an annual basis. Students will be taught the Sucwentwecw ways of knowing and will be encouraged to carry these teachings forward in honor. The teachings and experiences of the day will be furthered in all curricular areas. So then connecting this Sucwentwecw learning directly to our curriculum for grade 3 social studies. So these are the BC curricular connections I chose to make for this initiative, although I think it would fit with many more. So the big idea I chose to connect this with was Indigenous knowledge is passed down through oral history, tradition, and collective memory. The curricular competency I chose was explain why people's beliefs, values, worldviews, experiences, and roles give them different perspectives on people, places, issues, or events. Content would be relationships between humans and their environment, so connecting that all of the learning back to land. And finally, the first people's principles of learning I chose to connect this directly to was learning is embedded in memory, history, and story. And then connecting to community is also very important. So I will explore some contemporary challenges, opportunities, and adaptations, and the knowledge keepers that I will use within community to further this initiative. So to connect and explore some community-based processes, so some contemporary challenges and opportunities that this initiative addresses. So this initiative itself was created by School District 73 and continues still on an annual basis. It is an initiative that runs school-wide and district-wide as a way of honoring the land that the school district resides on. Challenges have been ever present since the beginning of COVID-19, but virtual measures have been met to continue this important learning. So I just wanted to address some adaptations that I would take for my school or my class. So this is usually an annual event, but due to COVID-19 and its consequences, this year's event will be held virtually. I chose to utilize the resources from previous years to create my own event. So I just wanted to connect to some knowledge keepers that I found who had a hand in creating and running this initiative in the school district. So that would be Carolyn Anderson, Kenthan Thomas, and Trudy Nielsen. So I really utilized Kenthan Thomas throughout my initiative, as he is a Sucwentwecw storyteller. So I do want to talk briefly about the resources that I used to create this initiative and learn about it and develop my own. So the first two resources are the 2020 and 2021 teaching resources for the Day of Sucwentwecw from the School District 73. The third resource I chose to use was my storybook, Coming to Your Senses, which was written by Kenthan Thomas. The fourth resource that I would use while running this initiative was the Land You Live On, an educational guide. This is a guide all for making land acknowledgements and how to go about doing that. And then connected also to that is the Acknowledgement of Territory, the School District 73 resource that I was also able to find. The next resource that I found was a Talking Circle resource from School District 73. So I would use this to help me with my opening gathering, my opening circle, and my closing circle at the beginning and end of the initiative. From the school district, I was also able to connect to the Sucwentwecw Worldview video, which outlines briefly how the Sucwentwecw people lived their life and their ways of knowing. It's under a minute long, and it would probably be something I would include throughout the Day of Sucwentwecw. The last resource I would like to highlight was the Sucwentwecw teaching resource. So this is a resource that just outlines the specifics a bit more about the Sucwentwecw way of life. So I just wanted to say, Yurit Skukstachum. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope that I did it justice, and I hope that this is something that you would find useful. Thank you so much. Cooksham.